All right, let's go ahead and get started. If you're just joining us, good morning and welcome to What's New on Everlaw as it relates to our newest release. My name is Claire and I'm a Senior User Education Manager here at Everlaw. I am joined today by my colleague, Kayla. We're going to talk about what's new, why we're all here. So today we'll be discussing 3 updates from our most recent release. First, we'll discuss a brand new feature, which is entity management for database admins. We'll then discuss an improvement to our default search grouping. After that, we'll take a brief look at the addition of database fields to legal hold matters. And finally, we'll wrap up our training by sharing a new learning resource that our team has developed over the past month. So the first thing we're going to take a look at today is our new feature, which is entity management. The first thing to understand when we're thinking about entity management is that an entity is a collection of email addresses and contact names associated with a specific individual. These are collected from the document metadata. A good way to think about what an entity is that it's all the emails associated with one person from the entity. Form the entity, excuse me. So with my current email, which is my first and last name, and my previous email, which is my first name and last initial, both of those email iterations are going to be captured under my single entity. This is going to make it easier for you to find and understand all of my email communications, whether they came from either one of those addresses. Entities are used across Everlaw. For example, when you're running a search for emails and you're using something like the parties term or the to or from fields, what you're searching for when you're searching for a name under those things is their entity. Entities are managed from the database admin page to consolidate, correct, or ignore certain information. And we're going to take a closer look at each of those things. So I mentioned that entities are extracted from the document metadata. This happens when the documents are uploaded. And one thing to note is that entities currently only include email metadata. That's the only place we're pulling that information from, so chat communications are not included. Occasionally, conflicts might arise due to issues with the underlying metadata. Entity management is going to help you resolve those conflicts as needed. The 3 things we're going to be looking at with entity management are the ability to merge entities, so 2 entities into one or more, remove or unassociate an email with an entity, so a bit of editing and cleanup, or your ability to mark an email as shared between multiple entities, which is going to exclude it from appearing in searches and help you get more relevant information. We're going to head over to Everlaw to take a look at what these things look like on the platform. When we're thinking about entities, I mentioned you can see them across the platform, so you're going to see them in your search terms as you're used to seeing it. Again, things like the parties field, the to and from field. But when you're thinking about the setup, we're talking about our database settings. So we're going to head there. That is in your project management under database settings. And you'll see, if you're familiar with this page, a new tab on the left, which is going to be the entities tab. This is going to show you the top 100 most prevalent entries. So the people who have the most emails, essentially, the people with the most communications in your database. Next to their names, you're going to see a magnifying glass, and that's going to open up a search for all of the emails under that entity. So basically a party search, which you can see in my hover information here, a really quick and easy way to see if you just want to know who's sending the most emails. As soon as you've uploaded your documents, you've got that magnifying glass there to generate that search very quickly. You can also see the total number of entities. So I have 5,758 in this particular database, but right now I'm only looking in my list at the top 100. If I'm looking for a specific person, I can always run a search for it. So here I've put in the first 3 letters, and I'm actually looking for Jeffrey Shankman. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do once I've found him. I don't have to scroll endlessly to make that happen. I mentioned a few different things that you can do here. So you can merge, you can edit, and you can mark as shared. We're going to look at merging first. So I just showed you how to search for particular things, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I know that there is a person who's called Sharon, and I know that Sharon has recently gotten married, and she's now going by a different last name. So I want her entity to include both of those emails. So I'm going to go ahead and say Sharon Brown, who used to go under her email of Sharon Brown at San Diego. is actually now going by Sharon Ferguson, but it's the same person. And I know it's the same person through the other review that I've done. And so I want them to be shared under the same entity. As soon as I've selected 2 or more using those checkboxes, I have the option up here to merge those. It's going to let me know that I've successfully updated that entity. And now when I search for either one of these names, I'm going to see the emails under either place. In addition to merging entities to make my future searches easier and more efficient, I can also create shared emails. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my name so we get back to our list. You might want to create or mark an email as shared so that you can associate it with multiple entities and hide it from appearing in searches. So a great use case for this is if you have something like an email distribution group. At our company, we have this for things like team lunches or fire drills. And maybe I know that in my particular project, none of the team lunches are going to be important. So they're not important for my review. So I can go ahead and hide them. And I know that we're using a distribution list that has the word try in it. So this is the list that is our distribution list. And I can see it's actually associated with a few other emails here. And I want to mark this one as shared. To do that, I'm going to go to the Edit button. I'm going to select the email that I want to mark as shared, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. We'll talk about removing incorrect emails in a moment, so for now I'm just going to skip this step, and I'm taken to a summary of my changes. As soon as I submit that, again, it's letting me know I've successfully updated that entity, and it's going to appear in the shared email for anything that is associated with it. So any other emails that it had, it's going to appear as shared. I can see that in my entity list here, and I will also see it in my shared emails tab. So 2 different places where this information is going to be easily available to me. Finally, if there's an email that's been incorrectly attributed to an entity, so if I have an email under Anna's name who doesn't actually belong to Anna, and I want to unassociate it or unattribute it, I'm going to use that same editing button. I'm going to select the one that doesn't apply. I no longer want this one to be associated with her email, with her entity. Sorry, going to make sure I'm on the correct one. So this is the first dialog is the shared. The next one is to remove the incorrect email. So that's the one I was looking for. I want to go ahead and remove this particular email from being associated with Anna. I can see how many documents I'm going to affect, and blue numbers on Everlaw are always clickable. So if I want to take a look at them before I do this, I'm sure that none of these apply. They're all about fire drills, for example, or they're all not related to Anna. They're actually related to Eric. I can go ahead and take a look at those first, and then I can submit. Again, I'll see the dialog box confirming my changes. Last thing I'm going to mention on the Entities tab here is my Activities tab. So everything we've done together in the last few minutes is tracked here in the activity, and I can go ahead and undo it as needed. So if I've worked with this for a few days within my review and I actually want to undo one of these changes, I can go back here to do so. For more detailed information on entity management, if you want to revisit anything that you just learned, you can go ahead and check out the knowledge base resource, which Kayla is also dropping in the chat. Our next item that we're going to cover today is an improvement to how Everlaw works, which is that default search grouping will now be applied to results tables beyond the search page. Default search grouping allows project admins to specify the initial grouping settings for all of the new searches that are created in the project. So when a user on your project runs a search, they're going to see their results in a group that you've set. For example, they're going to see it grouped by email threads with only the most inclusive emails included if that's what you've set up on your project. Previously, the default search grouping for a project was applied only to searches that were built on the search page. With this improvement, the default search grouping will apply to certain results tables with common points of entry for review. So that's going to include binders on the home page, the View All Documents button, upload cards on the home page, the Data Visualizer results tables, and the Create New Assignment dialog. Let's take a brief look at this improvement on the platform. We're going to stay in settings. So if you recall, we were here in our database settings. And for a quick look at default search groupings, we're just going to go to our project settings. So at the project level, your default search grouping for your project can always be found in the General tab. About halfway down the page, you have your default search grouping. It is enabled for my project, and it is grouped by attachments with grouped non-hits removed. So in other words, all of my searches and all of my results tables that we just went over with this improvement are going to be grouped in their attachments or by families. And then grouped non-hits are removed. So things that weren't relevant to my search, that didn't hit on my search, are showing in gray so that I can see they're part of the family, but they're not responsive to my search. I can also adjust this as needed from here. So if I wanted to use our email threads example from our slides, I would say I'm looking for my email thread and I want to remove all the non-inclusive ones. So I'm just going to end up with the inclusive ones. Because this is the default now across my project, this is going to affect all of my users. For now, I'm just going to keep it as my attachments with my grouped non-hits. And let's take a look at what this is going to look like in our results tables. I mentioned previously the default search grouping applied to searches. Now, several results tables are going to display this default grouping. So including things like my binders. When I open up a binder, I'm going to see them grouped by attachments. I can see this across the top. So it is grouped by attachments with my default grouping on. I can hover over for a reminder of what that default grouping is. And I can see very easily in the results table, anytime I'm grouping, I'm going to have this left-hand column letting me know any family numbers that I have. So this particular one has 22 attachments. If a user needs to change this grouping, so if I'm working in this binder as a reviewer and I need to see these documents grouped in a different way, even though my default grouping has been applied, I always have the ability to edit it from my settings tab. So really quickly, I need to just group this by all of the duplicates. I need to work with my duplicates, maybe strip some of them out. I can change this as needed, and then I can go back to my default grouping as soon as I'm ready. I mentioned we're going to see this in several places: binders, searches, creating the new assignments dialog, as well as your document upload sets. The other place this can be really interesting is your view all documents button. So now if you're taking a quick look at all of the documents, they're going to be grouped in the default manner for everybody. Finally, we have one more improvement to discuss today, which is the ability to add database fields to legal hold matters. Database fields allow you to track key information, such as the practice area or billing attorney, for each Everlaw database that your organization creates. With this release, database fields are now available to fill in when creating a new matter from an organization's legal holds page. In other words, you can now apply a database field before a database is actually created when you're just at the legal holds stage. You can also edit the database fields that are associated with existing legal holds or existing databases. This can help you track information throughout the life cycle of your matter. So if you don't yet have an active Everlaw database for something, but you do have a legal hold that you need to issue, you can go ahead and create these database fields at that stage. If you never create the database, that's fine. If you do, you already have the tracking in place. So we're going to take a very brief look at this functionality on the organization admin page of Everlaw. So for those of you who are org admins, you'll be familiar with the diamond with an O in it. When we're thinking about legal holds and organization administration, both organization admins and legal hold organization admins, so both of those sets of permissions, both of those permissions levels, will be able to view and add database fields when creating new matters from our legal holds page. So we're looking at our legal holds here. In my particular organization, I have 2 legal holds, and I can actually see that both of these have database fields already showing. To create a new one, I'm going to go ahead and hit the new button. Right now, I'm just interested in creating a hold notice, and I'm interested in making sure that I'm doing this for a new matter. Until this new matter becomes a database, it's only going to be visible on this page. I'm going to go ahead and enter in my matter name. So this is my example matter. And then I have my custom matter field. So this is where I'm going to be able to see any of my existing database fields and fill them out. So I have a constructions matters field, and this is going to be for our building 100. And then I have a building ID field that I'm going to enter in here. I can then copy over an existing legal hold as needed and enter the hold notice name to create that legal hold. And when I go back to my legal holds page, I'll see my example matter plus my database fields visible. If I need to edit these, I'm going to look for that three-dot menu, and I'm going to go ahead and select View Edit Custom Matters. Because I put that billing ID in really quickly while I was talking, I've actually messed up that second to last number. It should have been 91, so I can go in and adjust it as needed. One thing to note is that while the pinned fields will appear here on the organization legal holds page, only organization admins can pin fields. So I mentioned the two levels of administration access here, organization administrators and legal holds organization administrators. Legal holds organization administrators can see this page. They can add those database fields. But in order to make sure that they're pinned or to create a new one, somebody with organization admin access is going to need to go into the database fields section. As a reminder, that lives in the projects and users tab underneath database fields. You can see these are the two that are pinned. I can add a new one or pin additional ones as needed. As we wrap up our training today, I do want to take a quick minute to highlight a new learning resource that is available to you and to your team, which can be found on our training center and which we will also drop in the chat for easy access. That resource is our predictive coding deep dive video. This deep dive video is less than 15 minutes long, and it gives users who are already familiar with predictive coding basics a more advanced look at using and interpreting your predictive coding model and your predictive coding results. Because this is a slightly more advanced look, if you're brand new to predictive coding or if you're bringing somebody on your team in who is brand new to predictive coding, we recommend first checking out the quick start, then reviewing the deep dive. Thank you for your time today. And as always, please feel free to reach out to our support team with any additional questions that may come up as you're exploring these new features. You can easily contact the support team by accessing the help icon on the platform. It's always going to be in that top right-hand corner. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we will see you again soon.